That's true, he does look like Marshall.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to begin this evening's board meeting. Okay, the school board meeting of July 26, 2016 is now called to order. The time is 6:04 p.m. At this time, we request that all electronic devices be turned off or put into the silent mode. We also ask that you please refrain from using flash photography during this meeting. We would like to take the opportunity to remind the members of the public of the district's mission, which is to ensure that each student achieves his or her highest potential, and the district's vision to be a world-class school system. This evening's agenda includes the invocation, the Pledge of Allegiance, public comment, the consent action item, which includes 8 items under executive services, 2 items under business and finance, 10 items under operations, 30 items under teaching and learning, 9 superintendent recommendations, 1 of which is good cause. Dr. Atkins, would you please give your explanation for good cause?
Yes, sir. With school opening very, very soon, it's a need to put leaders in place. We had to make some administrative changes, which I think are critical to the operation of the school district and needed to get in front of the board as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Dr. Atkins. As presiding officer, I find there is good cause to add these items to the agenda. We have 4 items under public hearing, and we have 4 items under other business. Board members, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Fisher, seconded by Ms. Dozier. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. At this point, Ms. La Riviere will deliver the invocation, after which Ms. Fisher will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all please rise?
Will you please join me? Father, I just want to take some time to think about our precious children, our staff members, our communities that have been hurt again. Pray for our law enforcement officers that they will be able to get to the truth and find the rest of the suspects. I pray that we, all members of the community, Lord, will be forthright in speaking to officers to provide insight and wisdom as they proceed. Father, I just thank you for the privilege of loving children, serving families. I pray that you would give us your wisdom, your guidance, not just at this meeting, but daily as we interact and we work forward to making decisions. Pray for those in administration and our teachers, Lord, as they begin their new year. It happened fast. It was a short summer. Father, I just ask that there be renewed vigor, energy, excitement, and a deep commitment and passion to what is done daily with our students. In your name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Next item on the agenda is public comment. Mr. Martin, would you please address the agenda item of public comment?
School board policy provides the opportunity at this point in the meeting to address the board concerning any matter on this meeting's agenda or any other matter relevant to the operation of the school district. If you completed a card and submitted that to me before the meeting began, you'll be called in the order of the cards submitted. If you did not submit a card but still wish to address the school board this evening, the school board chair, Mr. Torber, will give you an opportunity in a moment to express that desire. The rules concerning public comment to the school board are posted at the back of the room. The school board does not respond during public comment time to remarks made by speakers. At the conclusion of public comment time, the school board chair may address concerns raised by speakers or may assign responsibility to the superintendent to do so. Speakers are Speakers are expected to act in a respectful manner. Those who fail to do so after being warned by the meeting chair may be required to leave the meeting. Disruptive attacks on individuals are prohibited. Mr. Torbehr has 6 cards this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Is there anybody who did not get the opportunity to fill out a card but would like to address the board? Would you please raise your hand? I have one. Would you please come forward and address what you want to address today?
Everybody, just a couple of brief things. The first is our loss in our community, and the second thing is communication. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Martin, your first card.
I believe there's one other hand, Mr.
Oh,
Torbehr.
I'm sorry, somebody else? I'm
Ms.
sorry.
Fox.
Bridget, please come forward, identify yourself, and
Apologies for not getting the card in time. Charla Fox and salaries.
Mr. Martin, your first card.
The first speaker this evening is Mr. Yepram Dervahanian.
Good evening. Yepram Dervahanian, Lehigh Acres, Florida. I love my country. I fear my government. Before I get to my subject real quick, I heard something on the radio that the Bible is the best textbook in the world. It was very nice to hear that. First thing I want to talk about is selling property to help finance new schools. We got a lot of property. Now, I drive through Gateway and Griffin and 82, there's a school board property there. I've had 2 residents in my community that got accidents at that corner. And why, to me, to build a school on that property someday doesn't make sense. 82 is always having accidents. And that intersection, I cross it sometimes. In fact, I try to avoid that intersection. I'll go all the way around to Daniels and come around to get to my community. It's a bad intersection. I think it's a good idea to sell that property. We need money for schools. Let's get rid of that property. I live in Lehigh Acres. I go to Lehigh Senior Center once in a while. Those people there that I see have to pay money for drugs that they need, for food that they need. Lehigh is not a rich area, so any increase in taxes would really hurt a lot of people. So let's look at selling some properties. I like to see better schools, but I like to see the money coming from property that we own as taxpayers. It's my property. I paid for it. Everybody paid for it. Let's get rid of it if we can get rid of it. Thank you.
Speaker is George Fox.
Thank you, Board. I wanted to, a couple subjects. Earlier in the day, Mr. Martin spoke about the First Amendment and the exercise we go through here in naming your subjects. Well, I personally don't have a problem telling you what we're speaking about. I do think that the board should be very liberal in allowing people to say what they want. They are paying the bills, and they should be able to say what they want. So just as long as this board, I don't have a problem with anybody identifying what they want to talk about, but everything should be eligibly talked about, whether you want to hear it or not. Second thing is, in finances, I talk a lot about raising revenues, but there's also savings. And one thing I think this board, I'd like to recommend to this board to do, and I think, Kathleen, you've heard this in the Finance Committee, is this board would like to see them form a group to evaluate vendors when bids go out for RFPs for vending contracts. Some of them are very major, but all of it. Superintendent and his staff do a great job of putting it together and presenting you with recommendations on let's spend some money on things that we need to spend money on. But everything, as far as I can see, gets pretty much rubber stamped, and that's just being blunt, without really knowing whether you're getting a good deal or not. And it has no reflection on the staff or anything. They're all doing an excellent job, but the way it's set up, you don't really know. I've been on the other side of vendors that do business with the school district, and it's a good business to be in. That's why you have a lot of people who have been doing business for many, many years in all areas with the board. When you don't really know, when you approve a big RFP, you don't really know whether you're getting a good deal or not. So maybe over here you could have a group that reviews these things before it's brought for approval to tell you whether you're getting, a good man-hour rate, whether this contractor is giving you a good deal. I mean, certainly they should make money, but not too much, right? They should be like everybody else. And maybe you could even actually have board meetings that dealt with just vendor contracts, so you could delve into them a whole lot more rather than in the middle of the night or a different night or whatever. There are things that you could do that could save a lot of money. Steve, are you okay?
I'm fine.
Okay. I just thought you were losing it there for a second. There are ways that you could save, I think, tens of millions of dollars just by people who put in bids who know that they're not going to be able to just walk it through, that they'll give you a better bid. And it's part of the things that the public expects. The public wants the district to save money, and this could be a way that you could structure yourself to do that very thing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fox.
Speaker is Denise Eberly.
Evening. I'm here, I live in Alva, Florida, on Tuckahoe Road, and I don't know what your position is on this, but it's been a concern to us since we've heard about it, that you have a parcel, 102 acres on the corner of Tuckahoe and Joel, and not sure whether you're considering putting a high school there or not, but I'm here to oppose that. Apparently Alva Inc. has said it's okay with them, but Alva Inc. consists of 3 people, and they never discussed it with the community. And this has a direct effect on our south side community of Alva. If you put a high school there, it's in our neighborhood. It's not on the side of the neighborhood, it's right in the center of the neighborhood. And there's 3 roads, there's Packing House and there's Stiles and there's Joel, and every bit of traffic would be coming up each one of those roads. Those roads are small, they're rural, very few homes on them, there's no sidewalks, there's ditches along the side of the road for water runoff, and that's about it. So my concern is for residents. We all can walk back there, we jog back there, we ride our horses back there, very quiet. At the most, you'll see 2 cars there at one time in that whole vicinity. The concern there is the massive traffic that would invade that. The streets, our homes, just that small area alone. Never mind the traffic coming into Joel from north and south sides entering Tuckahoe. And then what the most traffic would do is then to get past that traffic on Joel and Tuckahoe would take Edwards, which would again invade our residential community. So I don't know what your position is on that. That's why I'm here tonight, because I want to find out exactly what is going on. And as far as my, and then that's a very environmentally sensitive area. Where that school is where that school site is completely surrounded by 2020 land, completely. So we spent all our money in these tax dollars to keep these preserves, to protect the wildlife from disturbance, and then here comes the concept of putting this huge high school in there with bands and traffic from every road and lights, and it's very dark out there. We don't have any lights. It's lovely, and it's so quiet. And you want to, and then to disturb the natural habitat of these animals that we paid money to protect makes no sense to me. My alternative is there's other alternative school sites, which would be no problem. I have no problem with that, just not right in the center of our neighborhood. The other concept is...
Thank you, Ms. Everly. Time's up, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know how long I had.
I'm sorry, I didn't state that initially. It's 3 minutes for each speaker. Next speaker is Daniel Powers.
Board. I also live in the Tuckahoe area of Alva, And I'd like to second everything that Denise said. I don't have a lot more to add to that. I believe the Gateway site's probably more suited to go right now and has the infrastructure than the Alva site. I also do not agree with it being put in the middle of all these different Alva 2020 preserves. And if it was built there, it'll entirely destroy our way of life in that area. And we speak for a lot of our neighbors as well. Thanks for your time.
Jason Half.
Good evening. My child was recently involved in an incident that happened at school. It's all over the news. And the person that was involved is getting another position, and I was wondering how that was possible that she can just continue to have a job after what happened with my child.
The board does not respond to comments at this time. You can certainly continue to speak, sir, and ask your questions that may be addressed later.
I did not get his name, Mr. Martin.
That's Jason Half, H-A-F-F. Casey McKinney.
Hi. I'm addressing the same thing as my husband. My son was dragged down a hallway by a teacher, yet she still has a job. And if I was to do this to my child, I would be in jail. So for her to be able to come up here and ask for a position and not lose 1 day of work or a day of pay is, I think, absolutely ridiculous, considering he is mentally disabled, and I don't justify my child's behavior at all. But for him to be dragged down the hallway in his underwear, and you get kids that are getting suspended and expelled for a lot less, is ridiculous. And I think this school board needs to start taking action for these teachers and their responsibilities, and all these people on the school board and everybody else, and they know who I'm talking about, telling me that I was lying straight to my face that this didn't happen to my son. Well, now it's on videotape, so now who's lying? And I'm not stopping until this is done. And if she continues to work, then it's going to continue going, because I'm not going to allow these little children or any children to keep getting bullied by these teachers. It's unacceptable.
Those are all the cards, Mr. Torber.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Riegel?
Good evening, everybody. The first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to take some time out, probably for the most important thing I could say today, which is to offer up my condolences to two people in our community, the families of Stefan Strouder and Sean Achilles. Anytime you lose somebody in the community, especially a student, it's very, very difficult. I have to be honest, I did not know Stefan from my time over at Lehigh. However, everything that you read in the news, and for Sean as well, is very positive, and I could just not imagine to be a relative or the mother or father and have to bury your child. So from my heart, I wanted to offer my condolences, because you know, you look at social media and everybody wants to blame everybody else, but nobody wants to offer suggestions and improvement, and we are trying to improve here and do wonderful things, and the time for finger pointing is not now. The time for rallying and tears and crying and support, that time is now. The time to lift these young lives up for how wonderful they were, that time is now. And I just wanted to say that, first of all, thank you. And on the second point, I was wondering, Dr. Adkins, if you have a moment in the next week, would you please, or if I could, get a hold of each other so we can communicate and go ahead and finalize one way or another a couple of past issues. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Eagle. Ms. Fox?
Charla Fox, I am a teacher in the district, as I believe most of you all know. I am also a member of TALC, and I just wanted to remind you that starting tomorrow, we will be starting back into contract negotiations. And I know that you all will be coming up on an executive session to discuss your part of that. And I ask that you remember that in being able to hire and retain the best teachers, you need to really find ways of being creative and allow the team that you have assigned to the negotiations to be creative. And let them do everything that they can, and I know that the TALC team and SPOUT teams will do everything they can to make sure that we do hire and retain the best teachers that we can. Because to second what Mark said a little earlier in his remarks, we are hearing more this year, show me the money. Okay, and it's not about money per se, it's about the perception of that you value them and that they are valued, and that is where I see most of it coming from. So I just wanted to share that, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. That's the end of our comments. I'll address Ms. Fox. I definitely agree. This board has been very cognizant of the value and importance of our teachers, of all of our workforce, actually. But our teachers, the things we've done to make our new hire teachers get more competitive, to bring them in, and now attempt to actually keep our teachers, the ones that are here, to show them both through money and other avenues as well. Dr. Atkins recently, and Ms. Dozier acknowledged it at our briefing meeting, brought back a much more substantial retirement recognition for the people that have served us, to make that more of a notoriety, to show them the value. We need to do that more. We need to show our teachers more what we do, and we'll definitely be cognizant during our contract negotiations. Most of the talk about the rest of the comments for a lot of the speakers today were about properties. We have a lot of property, and that continually gets reviewed by Mr. Mora and his staff as far as our choice selection, as far as to build where our schools need to be. When I came in 2002, we had no land bank, and then Fort Myers or Lee County took off, and we had nowhere to put schools. And so the problem with buying new property, when you buy it when you need it, because of the disclosure laws, they see you coming, and the price just goes up and up and up and up and up, and our taxpayers take the hit. So we try to be savvy and smart and try to buy property based upon our projections of our 5-year and our 10-year projections as far as where will kids be when we need that. That's changed because of the way the economy has changed from 2002 up till now. It's just been all over the map. And additionally, the changes that we have now with our virtual schools as far as how that changes. So we are continuing to look at what we need as far as properties. The ones we don't need, we certainly will sell. The ones that we may need, we're going to keep, because when we have them, those are valuable assets that we can contain. But all the properties, especially to the people that spoke that came all the way out here from Alva, we are very cognizant of the impact of what schools do in neighborhoods, and we, as you saw, the arduous process that we did in Bonita, and now we're hoping that all the Bonita people, by the sounds of it, everybody now, it's a win-win, and everybody's on board, and we'll continue to work with those communities to make that happen. So that would be the same that we're going to happen when we do the school out in the east, whether it be Gateway or Alva or any of those properties. We'll be very cognizant of all the impact and involve everybody in that process. Mr. Regal, I appreciate your comments that you made. I actually knew Stefan from Lehigh, and both those boys, when I was in the stands, it was remarkable how many parents would turn to me and talk about how good character of this team. The boys that didn't, during the whole fracas that they had, they stuck together. The parents of the suspended students still supported the team. They came together. It was a family, and it was because of the quality of each and every one of those players in Lehigh. They were just great boys, and it was just, and it's a tragedy. And my heart and this entire board, we all go out to both Stephen and Sean's family. And that's it. We'll now move on to, I'm sorry?
I'm not sure.
At this point, no, I'm sorry. At this point, we've already closed public comment. I'm sorry. Next is the approval of action items under consent. Board members, are there any pulls under the consent agenda? Ms. Fisher?
I have no polls.
Ms. Dozier?
I have none, thank you.
Ms. Morgan?
I have two. D1 on page 129 and D10 and D11 on pages 148 and 150.
3.
Yes, okay, 3.
That's fine. Ms. LaRiviere?
I have none.
Okay, board members, are we going to have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus D1, D10, and D11?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Fisher, seconded by Ms. Dozier. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. We will now move to item D1. Dr. Atkins, please reread D1.
I recommend board approval of the supplemental spot survey to authorize the determination that 10 acres located on Block Lane in Estero is unnecessary for the educational purpose in accordance with Florida Statute 1013.28. Also recommend board approval for the agreement to sell this land in the amount of $600,000 to LAI Construction Management, Inc., and deducting attorney's fees and closing costs for the net sale of $582,600. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all necessary documents.
Board members, you've heard the the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Morgan,
Second.
second by Ms. Dozier. Ms. Morgan.
We have a sort of a policy, or not a policy, a practice with respect to use of one-time revenues, and that is we use them to fund temporary expenditures. This particular piece of property in Estero was deeded as part of a bigger land transaction, and the 10 acres was attached to Estero High School. Estero High School is engaged in a conversation with the community of Estero and Lee Memorial to talk about how this site might be used to benefit both the high school and the local community. So the reason I pulled this up is that I would like to suggest to the board that we set aside some amount of this money for use by Estero in the negotiations with respect to creating opportunities facilities at Estero High. So one, I would like acknowledgement that this is land that was deeded for the use of Estero High School, and two, therefore it would be appropriate to consider setting aside some of the proceeds at this point in time for one-time use by Estero High. And I think, Dr. Atkins, you know what I'm talking about. So if you want to or can elaborate on it.
Ms. Dozier?
Well, I would have a couple of questions of the superintendent. First of all, this purchase was, land was purchased out of capital dollars.
Right,
And
correct.
to use these dollars, I would assume, since you're selling the property, you're going to put the money in the capital fund. Is that correct?
That would be correct, and part of what we're talking about here, I think, would be a capital expenditure.
Okay, okay, all right, when you say what we're talking about here, you're talking about the use of the property from Estero High School?
Well, if you take some of the proceeds of this particular transaction and you invest in a multi-use facility or a swim, like a pool that Bonita could use and Estero High School could use and the community could use, that's a capital expenditure for the benefit of that particular community in the Estero area. And that's kind of what I think we're talking about with some of the folks down in that area that are interested in a multi-use facility to the benefit of the students.
Yeah, our practice is not to put something like this just into the general fund because it's not self-perpetuating, so it's essentially a set-aside.
for special practice or purpose.
Actually, that's not the past practice that I'm familiar with for the entire duration I've been on the board, that we're a school district and we have to do funds based upon, we're non-parochial in the sense that we don't sell a piece of property for the benefit of a certain area. You know, we have capital needs and demands, and we are far in the red in chiller repairs, bus, we're doing things for the bus replacement cycles. You know, we've got so many other places where capital dollars could give us better bang for the buck as far as chiller replacements to give our cost savings. So I don't have a problem doing a joint venture with a capital, doing a capital project with the city of Estero. If they want to develop that and come forward with some type of a mutual type of joint use, and we've talked about that with the county, but to earmark a certain sale, that's a precedent that I won't go down. I will not say, when we sell this property, the property goes into the capital budget, and the capital budget gets allocated based upon the needs that this board's already established through our 1-year, 5-year, and 10-year plan. So I'm not going to change that just because it happens to be, positioned in a certain part of the community, that we actually change our plan at that particular point. So that's where I.
And that's not what I was asking.
Ms. Dozier.
I think Ms. Revere had her hand
So
up
I'm
first.
going to ask some questions to make sure I understand correctly what we might be looking at. So you're suggesting that maybe allocating a percentage of this money that we would receive, let's say 10% or whatever it is that could be then would be put into the pot with other monies to help fund this. I see the benefit for all of our schools, because then it also allows for another place for swim meets in our district besides, I see the advantages to us as a whole district. But I want to make sure I have a clear picture, but I don't know if you're free to divulge everything.
I just want to make clear, I'm not asking us to do a set-aside at this time. I'm just saying that the public, that area of the community has come forward to say that this is underway. They would like to see us consider this opportunity. That's all that I am asking.
You're not making a motion to amend?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Anybody else? Ms. Dozier.
And again, the reason I asked the question was because I know out at Mariner High, there was some extra property. And we worked with the county and did a swap. And as a result of that, there's a beautiful library out there. But then again, we were able to build a middle school adjoining the property there that the county had. So it worked out good for everyone. And when we purchase plots of land, just like the LLL piece that we're buying down there, 60-something acres, I believe, isn't that correct? 67, is that right?
Yes.
They may not use all 67 acres, but I would hate for us to begin to have an assumption that just because the purchase property is purchased for a particular school site, that they think that any revenue or anything that comes from that would be theirs, because I think that's a real slippery slope that we could go down because of some of the schools, and I'm going to have to be parochial and say Fort Myers High, there's no way that they can recoup any money because they're landlocked. They need extra land, but there's none there, So, I know where you're coming from. I understand. I'm going to support the superintendent's suggestion, because I do know that the building association, different business groups are wanting us to look for ways to raise revenue. If that property isn't being used, we need to sell it, put it in our capital fund, and down the line, if we want to work with the city. And, Estero also has the opportunity to raise funds. In fact, I just found out the other day that there was a building that we didn't even have in our inventory out at Riverdale High School that the district didn't know anything about, and it wasn't insured. But, when they were doing like an inventory of all of our buildings, they found that building. There are schools that raise funds to build different facilities on their property. So, that might be an option for them, and then us giving them some assistance, because I certainly don't want to not assist them, but at the same time, we all have to look at the big picture as well, so.
All right, and I think one of the things we're looking at in all of these things are trying to partner with cities, with local municipalities, and where, you know, it's not just, like we said, we were talking about earlier, us being the ones doling out the dollars, but it's, you know, pooling our resources to the mutual benefit of us all. And anything that we would do down there, we would obviously bring forward for this board to approve.
Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Number D10.
148, okay. Let's see.
Dr. Atkins. 148.
I recommend board approval of the following ranking of the building official firms to provide services for LLL High School new construction: GFA International, Inc., Universal Engineering Sciences, Inc., Nova Engineering and Environmental, LLC, Bureau Veritas North America, Inc., NV5 Global, Inc. Approve authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents. In the event negotiations with the top-ranked firm are not successful, I recommend authorization to proceed with negotiation and execution of a contract according to the final ranking.
Board members, you heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. LaRiviere,
Second.
by Ms. Dozier. Any discussion? Ms. LaRiviere? No. Ms. Morgan?
The last time we approved a contract, which was for construction of LLL, I stated at the board table that I would not be willing to support any future recommendations made with respect to the way that we conduct our bid process. And so I know that the superintendent and his staff are looking at how we go about the bid process. I simply would like the superintendent to make a comment about where we are on modifying that process before I make a decision about my vote. Thank you.
Well, I had a conversation actually with, well, we've had multiple conversations actually around this particular issue, and I think I've been clear that we desire to see our process change. And so we have two recommendations here that represent the last recommendations that fall under the old format. We are actually moving this process out of facilities and moving that into procurement is one of the changes that will take place. So as I understand it, that all recommendations of this nature after this point come under the purview of procurement. Secondly, we are looking at a couple different modifications. I think I've made it clear that in terms of these rubrics, I'm looking at this particular rubric right now, but we want to have clear definitions in terms of if you have a point total from 0 to 10, what is a 2, what is a 3, what is a 4.
Very good.
So that's a recommendation that we're making. We also are looking at, we want to make sure that we have committees that make these recommendations that are much larger than what we've had in the past, so that we don't have one vote or two vote sway the rankings, which we have seen in some cases. Finally, Mr. Law is working with folks in our financial advisory committee to Will Scott, for example, and looking at ways to improve our procurement process, and this will actually allow for smaller vendors and more like minority contractors to have a greater opportunity to become involved. Part of it, you know, and this is a little bit out of my realm of expertise, but Mr. Laws has a lot of experience working in other states in this area, as does Mr. Scott. But where you can actually look at your methodology for how you advertise these things and can like break apart the bond, the requirement, and so forth to allow for some innovative ways to be able to offer bids and open the doors and probably get a better deal in the process. So a lot of improvements are currently underway, but the first one is really the movement of this from the facilities department to procurement. And as I understand it, and I'm looking at Mr. Law standing in the back of the room, he can nod accordingly, but this represents the last set of recommendations that fall under facilities. Okay.
Ms. Dozier.
And as we are going through this process of change, I'm going to reiterate again, I think it is imperative that all of those people that are going to be affected by this, we bring them in so they can have input as well. That is something that has served us very well. It is joining partnerships with the community. And I mean, I haven't been on that horse in a while, but, you know, I beat that drum. I like to use local companies. I like to use local vendors because and when I say local, I consider local big, you know, throughout the state of Florida because, you know, we are a driver of the economic engine in Lee County. And we need to make sure we are doing everything responsibly, respectful to this community, because that's an expectation that they have of us as a board, that we are helping this economy. Because after all of those vendors out there in the local realm of things, they're the very ones that are paying tax dollars into this school system. So I want us to be sure that we are being respectful of this process when we make the changes, that we are keeping all of those things into consideration.
Yeah, I agree with that, and again, looking out at the folks that are responsible for that, I mean, that's the one thing that we've talked about. I know Reggie and I have had conversation about making sure that we have local folks involved in providing input into that process. So that will be a part of it.
Great.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. And our last poll was
The next one.
D11 on page 150.
Okay, I recommend board approval for the following ranking of the construction management firms to provide services for construction manager services for FDP 369 Centralized CEP Veterans Park Academy of the Arts and Lehigh Acres Middle. Number 1, Owens Ames Kimball Construction, Inc. 2, Christel Construction, Inc. 3, Gulf Point Construction, Inc. 4, Suffolk Construction Company, Inc. 5, Gates Butts Institutional, Inc. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents. In the event negotiations with the top-ranked firms are not successful, I recommend authorization to proceed with negotiation and execution of a contract according to the final ranking.
Board members, you heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Dozier, seconded by Ms. Fisher. Any discussion?
Discussion is the same as it was with the previous item. I just, looking at the superintendent and Mr. Law for their assurance that everything done with respect to this particular process was fair, transparent, et cetera. Thank you.
Ms. LaRiere? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. At this point, we'll now move to superintendent's recommendations. We'll do the good cause. Dr. Atkins.
Okay, the first good cause is I recommend board approval of the following personnel action administrative change of assignment. Valerie Scheckler, Ramus E. Page Elementary, from assistant principal to principal. Administrative transfer, Scott Cook, Cape Coral High to principal, Riverdale High. Principal administrative transfers and change of assignment, Deborah Diggs from Ida S. Baker High, assistant principal to North High principal. Matthew Medeiros from North Fort Myers High, principal to teaching and learning principal on assignment. Gerald Deming from Riverdale High, principal to school development, executive director school development. Again, let me read that again. Gerald Deming from Riverdale High, principal to school development, executive director. Jeffrey Spiro from school development, executive director to Cape Coral High, principal.
You heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Wow, a unanimous motion to approve, seconded by Ms. LaRiviera. Any discussion? Start with you, Ms. Fisher. Anything? Ms. Dozier, since you all said I was take you all in order. Okay. I would just like to add, again, Dr. Atkins is making moves to move us forward with and a paradigm shift, putting the people, the key people that we need in our schools, in the right schools, and doing what we need to move us to a world-class system. I'm excited and encouraged by each and every one of you taking these assignments, and for Dr. Atkins to be bold in making the decisions and moving us forward. He's, you know, the news press had him as a man to watch. Well, this district is now getting to be a thing to watch, and not just for next year, but into perpetuity. So I will definitely be supporting these moves. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. At this point, Dr. Atkins, would you please announce most of the administrators in attendance, both for this and also there is some, I believe, in the consent agenda.
First, Charles Pease, South Fort Myers High Assistant Principal. Stevens, Early Childhood Learning Services Principal to Early Childhood Learning Services Lee Adolescent Mothers Program Principal. Roseanne Perez, Island Coast High Teacher Leader to Assistant Principal. Nicole Lemmy, Lehigh Senior High Teacher Leader to Assistant Principal. Kathy Padilla, North Fort Myers High Athletic Director to Assistant Principal. Valerie Scheckler, Ray Missy Page Elementary Assistant Principal to Principal. Andrea Miller, San Carlos Park Elementary Teacher Leader to Assistant Principal. Noah Wilson, a Sunshine Elementary Teacher to Assistant Principal. Oscar Aguin, Title I Program Administrator, Grants Program Development to Assistant Director, Intervention Services. Kimberly Stenson, Veterans Park Academy for the Arts, Teacher to Assistant Principal. George Burns, Alternative Learning Center, Central Alternative Learning Center West to and Lee Adolescent Mothers Program Principal to Dunbar Community Principal. Scott Cook, Cape Coral High School Principal to Riverdale High Principal. Robert Cooper, Rama C. Page Elementary Principal to Mirror Lakes Elementary Principal Turnaround School. Lee Hughes, Curriculum and Staff Development to Title I Program Administrator, Grants and Program Development. Catherine Scoville, East Lee County High Assistant Principal to Curriculum and Staff Development, Assistant Director. Michelle Aldridge, Estero High Reading Coach to East Lee County High Assistant Principal. Deborah Diggs from Ida Baker High School to North Fort Myers High Principal. Michelle Stewart, James Stevens International Academy Reading Coach to Varsity Lakes Middle Assistant Principal. Christine Diamond, Mariner High Teacher to Dunbar High Assistant Principal. Pierre Peacock, Oak Hammock Middle School Science Coach to Dunbar High Assistant Principal. Debbie Noss from Rama C. Page to Hancock Creek Elementary Assistant Principal. Jerry Deming from Riverdale High School to School Development Executive Director. Jennifer Lusk, Tanglewood Elementary Teacher to Lehigh Elementary Assistant Principal. And Leanne Kane, Trafalgar Middle Reading Coach to Assistant Principal, Veterans Park Academy for the Arts. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Atkins. Will you please continue with your next recommendation?
I recommend board approval for the one-time increase of $750,000 for the period of July 26, 2016 through October 19, 2016 for a not-to-exceed amount of $3,250,000 for the original term, and to renew the bid for fresh produce awarded to Oaks Farm, Inc. for the first renewal period of October 20th, 2016 through June 30th, 2017, the amount of $3,900,000 pursuant to the same terms and conditions for this period as previously approved by the board. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
Board members, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Fisher, seconded by Ms. Dozier. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Dr. Atkins.
I recommend board approval to award RFP structured cabling and telephone system installation support to Aztec Communication of South Florida and Intelligent Infrastructure Solutions LLC for categories 1 and 2, and to Mock Engineering Inc. and Telephone Support Systems Inc. for category 3 as indicated in the attached proposed tabulation. The RFP will be effective for a period of July 26, 2016 through July 25, 2019, with renewal options for 2 additional one-year periods upon written agreement of the vendors in the district, and an estimated annual expenditure of $1 million for the first year. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
Board members, you heard the recommendations. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Dozier, seconded by Ms. Fisher. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Dr. Atkins.
I recommend board approval of the amendment to the South Florida Water Management District Conservation Easement for the purpose of an outdoor classroom at Heights Elementary.
Board members, you heard the recommendations. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Fisher, seconded by Ms. Lowry Riera. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Number E.
I recommend school board approval of the designated school bus routes as presented for the 2016-17 school year, and authorization for the superintendent to make any necessary adjustments in bus routes throughout the school year as required.
Board members, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Dozier, seconded by Ms. Fisher. Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Dr. Atkins.
I recommend board approval for the centralized CEP Veterans Park Academy of the Arts in Lehigh Acres Middle School total project cost of $4,200,000. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all necessary documents.
Board members, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by
Support.
Ms. Dozier, seconded by Ms. Fisher. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Dr. Atkins.
I recommend board approval to piggyback Collier County School District bid number 146-6/15 for portable canvas walkway and doorway awning covers awarded to Marco Canvas and Upholstery for the period of July 26, 2016 through June 30th, 2017 at an estimated expenditure of $500,000 with the option to cancel if deemed in the best interest of the district. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
As you heard the recommendations, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. La Riviera, second by Ms. Fisher. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Dr. Atkins.
Next recommendation, I recommend board approval of the 2016-17 agreement and an articulated acceleration plan for Florida Gulf Coast University and the District School Board of Lee County, Florida, to enhance learning opportunities for eligible students for the opportunity to take specified college-level courses in lieu of standard curriculum courses at an estimated cost of $700,000. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute related documents.
Board members, you heard the recommendations. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Dozier, seconded by Ms. Fisher. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next recommendation, I recommend board approval for the 2016-17 agreement and articulated acceleration plan with Florida Southwestern State College and the District School Board of Lee County, Florida, to enhance learning opportunities for eligible students with the opportunity to take specified college-level courses in lieu of standard curricular courses at an estimated cost of $1,200,000. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute related documents.
Board members, you heard the motion. Is there a recommendation to approve?
So
Motion to approve.
moved.
Moved by Ms.
Support.
Dozier, seconded by Ms. Fisher. Ms. Dozier.
Dr. Atkins, the previous recommendation was for 700,000. This one is for 1,200,000. I assume that that is because we have more students that actually participate, but I wanted to make sure that that was the correct answer.
That is my understanding.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. That ends our recommendations. We'll now move to our public hearing. Before closing the regular meeting and opening the public hearing, I'm going to ask Dr. Atkins to present his recommendations for the evening's public hearing. Dr. Atkins.
Okay, just one, sorry. That section again. Okay, the first, I recommend board approval of the revision of policy 1.061, evaluation of the superintendent and the school board attorney to update the means by which the school board evaluates the performance of the superintendent of schools. The changes are intended to promote transparency, provide effective feedback to the superintendent in line with the strategic plan. The effective date of this adoption will be Wednesday, July 27th, 2016. The next recommendation is I recommend board approval of the revision of policy 2.28 charter schools to update the district policy to conform with recent changes in state statute regarding charter school applications and operations. The effective date of this adoption will be Wednesday, July 27, 2016. Next recommendation, I recommend board approval of the revision of policy 4.07, participation of private school, home education, and charter school students in Lee County public school extracurricular activities and sports to provide improved clarity and more detailed guidance regarding participation of students in extracurricular activities. The effective date of this adoption shall be Wednesday, July 27, 2016. And I recommend board approval of the adoption of the 2016-17 Student Progression Plan. The documents are reviewed and updated annually if necessary and presented to the board for adoption. The effective date of this adoption shall be Wednesday, July 27, 2016.
Thank you, Dr. Atkins. At this time, the public will be invited to speak on these 4 items. The time allowed to be for comment is 3 minutes. Is there anyone on the right side of the room that would like to address any one of these 4? Is there anybody on the left? Seeing nobody, I will now close the public hearing and reconvene the regular school board meeting of July 26, 2016. Dr. Atkins, would you please restate your recommendations for this evening's vote?
First recommendation is I recommend board approval of the revision of policy 1.061, evaluation of the superintendent and the school board attorney to update the means by which the school board evaluates the performance of the superintendent of schools. The changes are intended to promote transparency, provide effective feedback to the superintendent in line with the strategic plan. The effective date of this adoption shall be Wednesday, July 27, 2016.
Board members, you heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. La Riviera, seconded by Ms. Dozier. Ms. Dozier.
Thank you. I would just like to commend Dr. Atkins as well as Ms. LaRiviere and Dr. McCullers for taking all of our comments and listening to everything that the superintendent needed, that the board needed to have a good strategic instrument to use for assessment, and I look forward to us using this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Your next recommendation, Dr. Wright.
And recommend board approval of the revision of policy 2.28 charter schools to update the district policy to conform with recent changes in state statute regarding charter school applications and operations. The effective date of this adoption shall be Wednesday, July 27, 2016.
Board members, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Dozier, seconded by Ms. La Riviera. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Dr. Atkins.
I recommend board approval of the revision of policy 4.07, participation of private school, home education, and charter school students in Lee County public school extracurricular activities and sports to provide improved clarity and more detailed guidance regarding participation of students in extracurricular activities. The effective date of this adoption shall be Wednesday, July 27, 2016.
Board members, you heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Fisher, second by Ms. LaRiviere. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Your last recommendation, Dr. Atkins.
Recommend board approval of the adoption of the 2016-17 student progression plan. Documents are reviewed and updated annually if necessary and presented to the board for adoption. The effective date of this adoption shall be Wednesday, July 27th, 2016.
Board members, you heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Dozier, seconded by Ms. Fisher. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Dr. Atkins. We now will move on to other business. We'll move to board members' comments and reports. I'll start with you, Ms. LaRiviere.
I will have some comments, but people left, but I'm going to still share. With regard to property, we have not begun to tackle the next building out east yet. When that happens, as Mr. Toiber so stated, everyone in the community will be involved. Everyone will be involved as part of that process and to make the wisest decisions. And I appreciate Ms. Eberly and Mr. Powers coming forward and speaking. It's important for people to come and share their viewpoints regarding that and other issues, and they handled it in a very productive manner, so I appreciated that insight. A thought occurred to me as we all ponder what's happened in our community since very early Monday morning with the shootings. One of the thoughts that came from a community member is I want to make people, I hope people are aware that we do have SROs at every middle school, correct? And we do have SROs at every high school. It is my understanding that SROs are shared at the elementary level. Is that?
That's
Yes.
correct.
So this is just an encouragement to those of you who are at elementary, administrators, to try to be proactive, to invite those SROs to participate in the classrooms, because we really need to, at all levels, elementary, middle, and high, make sure there's a development of that positive relationship with our officers in law enforcement, so our students do not fear them as someone to be feared, but someone they can go to tell truth and who will help them. And that does begin at the elementary level. So I know it's harder at elementary, since you share, but whatever can be done to incorporate them so it develops that bond, I highly encourage that. I wish there was more money. I also believe that our sheriff's department and city of police departments wish there was more funding available. So I just wanted to make sure that I included that. And then, as we tonight voted in and approved the policy regarding the superintendent's evaluation, one of the points that we included within that was to be sure that we had done a workshop to review that so that we are using the instrument appropriately before we begin to use it. So I would ask that in June, several of us requested a workshop be provided so that we could address any protocols and our protocol handbook that we wanted to relook at or consider. Have some time where we also need to look at our superintendent's evaluation tool to make sure we are using it properly. And let me see. Looking at the strategic plan. And we also wanted to spend time talking about how we're going to organize for committees with the adding of 2 new board members. So I'm just requesting, if possible, that we could have a workshop similar to what we've done at the building on Canal Street. I can't remember the correct name, Support Services Building. It may involve maybe needing to have 2 separate ones to incorporate all the components that we had discussed. I have to go back and look at the video from June to make sure I have those, that I can remember those. So I'm just respectfully requesting that we go ahead and schedule at least one, and then if we need to go to a second, that we do so. So that's just a reminder, so while we're all here. And outside of that, I'm just so proud of so many people and with some of the appointments. And many of us are feeling giddy, and I do, as just too many people that I've been very close to and that I've loved and coached and been alongside, and to see the progress and see where they're going in leadership. It's just, it's amazing.
Ms. Morgan.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what Ms. LaRiviere said about the SROs. One of the things I've learned as a board member in the last 4 years and being in schools is what an important role they play in supporting the social services, emotional services that we provide to kids. They are a key ally, and so I just want to say, I never say how much I appreciate the role they play in the schools beyond the role of security. Also, from me, congratulations. There's a lot of change, a lot of excitement. I'm thrilled for all of you. Thank you for taking on the challenge. Looking forward to a great start to our new school year.
Thank you, Ms. Dozier.
Yes, I too would like to congratulate each and every one of you that have changed appointments, have been appointed to a position in leadership. One of the things that I like to say is you've been tapped for a reason, and it's because someone saw the capability and the ability of you to bring great things to the district. So you have the most valuable resource in your hands in your schools, so good luck as you move forward into your new positions, and I know that all of you will be shining stars. Mr. Fox, I want to thank you for bringing up the suggestion of the vendor task force. In fact, one of the things that this board actually directed the superintendent to do was to look at all of our RFPs, and I know how staff gets really bogged down. They've gone through some of the RFPs, but not all of them, and I think if the community is willing to come forth and help out with that, I think that's a great idea, and I certainly would support that. You know, as we talk, I know we had a couple of people that came forth to talk about the property in Alva, and I will tell you that I have already received some lobbying from the people in Gateway, and they would like to see us use the Gateway property as our next high school. So not only did I receive some letters, but I also received some petitions that almost all of the people in that community have signed. So, you know, I think it's wonderful that we've got some communities that are saying, bring it to us. You know, we want it in our community. So I'm just real excited about that. I want to welcome back all the teachers because we won't have another meeting before you come back. I hope that all of you have had a wonderful summer and that you come back re-energized. And, you know, a couple of people spoke about the issue. I know Mr. Castellano and Ms. Fox talked about, you know, doing something, show me the money, show me the money. And I will tell you that as one board member, one of the things that we try to do, I think I speak for everyone, is that we try to put as much money into salaries as we can. And I just recently as yesterday, was looking at some salaries in some other areas, and, you know, we've got a ways to go. And, you know, we talk about retention and recruitment, and as we know that we are going to continue to need more and more teachers, we've got to find a way to get these people here on the beach and cutting it. So we've got to be creative and look for some ways. So thank you for keeping us on our toes about that. Also, I want to again say, I would ask everyone to keep the families of all the victims from Sunday evening's catastrophe in your prayers, as well as all of the families that were affected and all of those students that were injured. You know, I said earlier today, we as a community have got to stand up and say enough is enough, and we don't accept this behavior. We're not going to allow it anymore, whether it be us forming task forces in the community. We've got to do something because there is just too much, there are too many lives being taken at a very young age when it's just senseless, needless, and as a community, we have to come together and we have to say enough is enough, and we're not going to allow this anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dozier. Ms. Fisher?
Thank you. And to the appointees this evening, new appointments and changed appointments, thank you for being willing to share your gifts, your talents, and your knowledges and experiences with our students. And one of the things I think we have to do is we have to start at the beginning when our kids come to pre-K and kindergarten. And we have to be the leaders to shine the light for them and to help them to learn those skills that they need to get along with one another, to share and take turns, and to know how to take care of themselves. This afternoon we had a presentation on a proposed comprehensive health education policy, which is a way of almost going back to the basics and doing the things that we used to do in those primary grades so that we can help those kids to develop life skills that will take them forward and is really a means of preventing the kinds of tragedies that we have seen in our news the last few weeks. The babies born addicted to drugs, the children shooting one another in the streets. We have a problem in this community, as do many across the country, and we, the school people, have the captive audience. We are the people with the education. We are the people who are teaching our children. And so for their future and ours, we need to work together and come together with the other members of our community who are more than willing to do that. So I thank you all for all you do and for all of our amazing students and staff and our community. We'll have a great 16-17 school year. Thank you.
Fisher. And I would just like to add, just on the SROs, that we do have a great cadre of SROs that do a lot in our schools for our students, build the relationships. We have SROs actually here today, and I just wanted to reach out to Major Cerisi in the corner back there. It's his birthday today, so just have everybody a round of applause. That's all I have. I'll move to Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Dr. Adkins.
If it'd be all right, I'd like to, one of the recommendations, which is why we're over here looking at this recommendation, I want to make sure that it was read correctly, because we did have a change in this. I read the document off the web, and if you would permit me just a very brief recess to verify that I'm reading you the correct wording, then I could come back to you with the right recommendation. Just should take just a minute.
Absolutely.
Andy. See
Ladies
what
and
this
gentlemen,
says.
we are now reconvening the meeting of July 26, 2016. We are in the middle of Dr. Atkins' comments, but we're going to go back to our recommendations and address 6C. Board members, there was a errant read of the recommendation, so I would entertain a motion for reconsideration of 6C, that we may pull that consideration from, pull that motion approval from the docket.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Morgan, seconded by Ms. Dozier. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0, so that is now off the table. Dr. Atkins, would you please reread 6C as corrected?
I recommend board approval to award RFP number R167268TA, structured cabling and telephone system installation and support to Aztec Communications of South Florida, Inc., Intelligent Infrastructure Solutions, LLC, Mock Engineering, and Telephone Support Systems, Inc., as indicated in the attached proposed tabulation. The RFP will be effective for a period of July 26, 2016 through July 25, 2019, with renewal options for 2 additional one-year periods upon written agreement of the vendors and the district, and an estimated annual expenditure of $1 million for the first year. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
Board members, you heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Fisher, seconded by Ms. Dozier. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. That ends our recommendations. We'll now go back to Dr. Atkins for his comments.
All right, well, first of all, thank you very much. I apologize for that, very minor, but that's why we have Mr. Martin watching these very, very carefully, so I appreciate that. I do want to tell folks out there and that you know, the personnel recommendations that we made. I believe at this point we've made over 80 administrative changes, and I have to tell you that these represent some of the most difficult decisions I've ever had to make. But I keep coming back on what is in the best interest of students and what's in the best interest of this district. We have some dynamic leaders, and I think we are well poised to do extremely well this year. Part of it, all these recommendations, even though they are difficult in many cases, I am also pretty excited about what we see in the future. So the last thing that I want to mention is just again, as I said before in the press conference. Our hearts go out to the families of the tragedy that occurred earlier this week. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families of the victims. And I just have to say that I believe this. One of the goals of this board and this administration is to work with this community. And I think that this is one of these examples that allows us to learn from it and to move forward and work collaboratively with community leaders and business leaders in Lee County. I think that as a result we can make a safer and more secure district for our students. And again, I think I just want to again acknowledge that these families are certainly in my thoughts and prayers, and anything we can do to help them, the district is here to support them. So thank you very much, and that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Atkins. The next scheduled meetings of the board on Tuesday, August 9th, there's a school board workshop at 2 p.m. as well as a school board action meeting at 6 p.m. At this point, having no other business to come before this board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By Ms. Fisher, seconded by Ms. Dozier. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is 5-0. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.